Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, we're continuing our series in the brand new Player's Handbook, and we're wrapping up what we were talking about last time, Cleric subclasses. Yes, clerics don't get their subclasses at level 1 anymore. They get to choose them at level 3, like everyone else in the game. And so many of the domains have been tweaked as a result, and today it's the War domain. Clerics are wonderful characters that can basically fill any role in a party you want. They can wear heavy armor, grab a shield, and stand on the front lines with the tanks. They can be damage dealers. They get martial weapons if you want. They have great blaster type spells, and can enhance their abilities even further with their magic. Not to mention, they are, of course, the supporters. Some of the best healers in the game are clerics. The War domain leans heavily into the damage dealing, weapons and armor style of cleric. But how does it stack up compared to the other subclasses? We'll get into the details in just a moment, but before we do, I'd like to let you know Relaxed Fantasy Review has memberships. For just $1 a month, you can support me here on YouTube and get a couple benefits. First, you get a little badge next to your name in the comments, letting folks know that you're a supporter. You also get early access to my videos. I upload videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I upload them a day early for members only. And finally, in my community Discord, there's a VIP room for members only who can talk directly to me, and I like to talk to them about, the future of the channel and other things like that. So if any of that interests you, you can click the join button just below the video down there. I'd love to see you in the VIP room in the Discord. But if it doesn't interest you, that's fine. The Discord's open for anybody. The general chat is in there, and I'd love to see you there as well. And yeah, just watching the videos, liking, subscribing is completely free and is a wonderful way to support me. So thanks for watching my content here on YouTube. So, level 3, we choose our subclass, the War domain, and we get a few things. First of all, you get your domain spells, your expended spell list, which grants you a bunch of spells always prepared. And the list here is pretty solid. I mean, you've got Guiding Bolt and Shield of Faith, which, cool. Those ones are decent cleric spells. You got Spiritual Weapons, Spirit Guardians. You've got Fire Shield, Hold Monster, and Steel Wind Strike. Some incredible spells for damage dealing and battlefield control, and even defense. I say overall this list is probably 8 out of 10. Freedom of movement is here nor there, and honestly, I'm not a big fan of the new spiritual weapon. It requires concentration. Although, not necessarily, but we'll get into that here in just a sec. Anyway, domain spell list, 8 out of 10. You also get Guided Strike. When you or a creature within 30 feet of you misses with an attack, you can expend one of your channel divinity and give that roll a plus 10 bonus, potentially turning it into a hit, although that will almost certainly turn it into a hit unless you're fighting a really heavily armored creature and they rolled abysmally low. If you use it on yourself, it doesn't even take a reaction. You can just choose to do it. If you use it on an ally, you have to use your reaction to do so. This is pretty solid. I think that it isn't something I would be using all the time. It's something that I would use if a person really wanted to land like a killing blow with a sneak attack or a smite or something like that, because it does take a channel divinity charge for a single attack as opposed to a long-lasting effect, but it is a very strong single effect. So I'm going to give it another 8 out of 10. The last thing you get is the War Priest power. As a bonus action, you can make an attack with a weapon or an unarmed strike. You can use this a number of times equal to your Wisdom modifier, and they recharge on a short or long rest. The old War domain had a similar power, but one, it was tied to the attack action. You had to attack and then bonus action attack. This just allows you to bonus action attack. No wind up required. So that's nice. And it used to recharge on a long rest only. Now it recharges on a short rest, meaning that as long as you've got a decent Wisdom modifier, a 16, you could reliably be bonus action attacking at least once or twice per combat, And if you're one of those tables that gets short rests, like between every fight, then you could be using this all the time. Granted, I tend to play at tables that get like, 2 or 3 combats a day and maybe one short rest. So you'd be using this most of the time. And if you wanted to use your action to cast a spell and then bonus action attack, that sounds like a great idea. The only thing that bugs me about it is the anti-synergy of wisdom versus weapon. Your wisdom modifier dictates how often you can do this, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But your wisdom isn't what you're hitting with, unless you specifically have Shillelagh or True Strike or some other way to use your spellcasting modifier as your attack bonus. Then you're going to want your physical attack, your strength or your dex, to be high, and you're going to want your wisdom to be high to power this. So you've got a bit of a multiple ability score dependency. I still think it's an incredibly strong feature. I just wish that you could do it based on the modifier you attacked with instead of your wisdom. Having said that, I'm still going to give it an 8 out of 10. I still think it's fine. Now, moving on to level 6, and you get War God's Blessing. I mentioned earlier that I'm not a fan of the new spiritual weapon because it takes concentration to hold it, so you can't spiritual weapon and spirit guardians at the same time. However, now, at level 6 with War God's Blessing, you can use your channel divinity charges to cast Shield of Faith or Spiritual Weapon. You can do it without expending a spell slot when you use this. So you use the channel divinity instead of a spell slot. That's awesome. And when you do it this way, it doesn't require concentration. It lasts for a minute or until you're incapacitated or you cast the spell again. But the point is that you can now have a concentration-free Shield of Faith, which is +2 to AC, or Spiritual Weapon, which is a floating bonus action attack. Now, this is nice for 2 reasons. One, it fixes the Spiritual Weapon issue. So now you can have Spiritual Weapon and Spirit Guardians going simultaneously. And your Spiritual Weapon makes you want to lean into your spellcasting even more than the War Priest ability does. On top of that, you don't use a spell slot. So because of that, you can still cast a spell with a spell slot in the same turn. The rules are specific. If you cast a spell with a spell slot, the only other spell you can cast is a cantrip. You can't cast more than one leveled spell at a time by using spell slots. This doesn't use one. So bonus action, Channel Divinity, Shield of Faith, or Spiritual Weapon. Cool. And then action, cast Spirit Guardians or some other concentration spell that you want to be concentrating on. And in one turn, you've got them both going. As opposed to having to wait 2 turns like you used to have to in the old rules. I think that this fixes multiple issues with the rules and really, really firms up the War Priest as a gishy character, concentrating on magic while also attacking with their weapons. I think it's a solid feature, and I give it 10 out of 10. Finally, at level 17, capstone feature, the subclass Avatar of Battle. It's incredibly simple. You get resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Now, I know that at the higher levels of play, boss monsters, evil liches and undead, or powerful beasts, or massive, dragons usually don't attack with their physical stats. Like, they're not doing bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing. They're usually using elemental or necrotic or force damage or something like that. But those are the big bads. Throughout Adventuring Days, you find yourself fighting minions all the time. You're still going to run into lower tiers of the same monsters, vampires and undead, or smaller dragons in a dragon's lair, the wyrmlings, or even, the goblins and the orcs that are under the evil mercenary captain's lead. You're still going to be fighting creatures that do this damage throughout your career, even if it's not the big bad himself. Meaning that resistance to damage is going to make you perfect for doing mop-up on the battlefield, taking out the minions. Matching a spell like this with something like Spirit Guardians and just acting like a human Beyblade running around is so fun. And for those who don't fall to your spells and to your weapons, Now you're going to have resistance to the damage they deal most of the time. I think this is a very powerful feature, no matter when you get it in game, and I'm going to give it 10 out of 10. That might be a hot take. Some people are noticing in the sneak peeks we've had at the new monster manual that a lot of higher level enemies are dealing force damage, and that the magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing have kind of been done away with. So, yeah, a lot of higher level monsters, but I'm still talking about the lower level ones that you face as minions, which shouldn't go away unless your DM just wants you fighting like big single enemies. In that case, maybe this wouldn't be so good. But I think if you read most high level material Wizards of the Coast has written, you're still fighting minions throughout, and this will help you in, 8 out of 10 fights, even in the high game. So I'm still giving it that 10 out of 10 because I find it endlessly useful. Anyway, yeah, the War Domain Cleric. Lots of fun features, a fantastic spell list, a cool bonus action attack, being able to do the Spiritual Weapon, Spirit Guardians combo that we all love so much. Anywho, I give the subclass 9 out of 10. I think that it starts off a little slow. It gets some decent features, Guided Strike, War Priest, that are okay, a good spell list, and as you level up, it just gets better and better. I'm very, very happy with this version of the War Priest. I think that it is a really, really fun archetype, and I'm glad to see it alive and well in the brand new Player's Handbook. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for overall. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. Have a look for the join button down there, and keep your eyes peeled for more subclass reviews coming down the line soon. Have a good one, my friends.